I was told so many stories, and I kept them in my stomach. Lies the truth, fake smiles of blood money. I lost cars at a loss.
Okay, right, welcome back. Now this is the third of 3 short videos on basic big twin Dyna engine servicing. We've covered the oil changes so far, all 3 of them, the engine oil change, the gearbox oil change, and in the last one, the primary change as well. Now all those oils are done. There's just 2 major adjustments to make to the engine before you can move on, and that's the basic engine servicing sorted. You've got the clutch adjustment and the primary chain adjustment, very simple tasks. So let's get the derby cover off, show you the clutch back inside and how to adjust it for free play so it's good for the next 5,000 miles. Okay, while I'm just spinning the derby cover off, hand against the back there, or the back of your hand against the casing to hold it in place, spin the screw out. Right, when you take the derby cover off a big twin, unlike the Sportster, there's not a little spring to ping out, it just drops off and the clutch is in there. A little gasket disc, you might have a rubber quad ring inserted into that groove, one or the other, they both seal the thing up. This one, if you remember the last video, it wasn't squeezed home and torqued up, so that's why I'm going to reuse that in a minute, but normally you would replace them every time. Okay, now this clutch adjustment must be done with the bike upright. Obviously, otherwise all your oil is going to spill out the derby cover hole, and it must be done at room temperature as well. That's very important. If you do it when the engine's hot, then when it cools down, you'll get clutch slip. Okay, before we can do anything with this and adjust that, we need to back the cable off to make sure there's no pull on the cable whatsoever that can affect this and give you a false reading. And adjusting the cable, backing it off is dead easy. It's in the bottle screw in the middle of the cable. Right, you've got this rubber gaiter in the middle of the cable. Hold on to the cable, lift the gaiter up, all the way out of sight, and there's the adjustable screw in the middle. It's a 1/2 inch and 9/16. One goes on the body, one goes on the lock screw, and just back it off so it's out the way. Take that all the way up, probably about halfway up, just to make sure there's no pull on that cable whatsoever. Completely adjust it off. That's what we're looking for. Lots of slack here, lots of free play, so the cable isn't pulling on the clutch pack. Okay, now the clutch cable's backed off. The adjuster is in the centre of the clutch pack here. We've got a lock nut and a grub screw. If you're finding that your lock nut itself is really tight, simple method is pop it in first gear, stick your foot on the brake the other side, or get someone else to, and then you can hold the clutch still using the transmission itself. Then you can break that free, but they shouldn't be tight. This one's probably not. Bike's well maintained. Just a little shock is all it needs. There we go. Now once the lock nut is backed off, then we have to just set the adjustment on the grub screw itself. I'll show you that's done. Right, just going to show you the anatomy of this adjuster before we get started. Taking the lock nut off out the way, what we have here is a little grub screw, as you can see. Just a little free moving grub screw. It doesn't unscrew completely, it comes out about 3.5 turns. That's about its maximum range of movement. And it should move freely, like a radio dial. Should be absolutely no bind in it whatsoever. You should be able to turn it with your fingertips without any effort whatsoever. It should be loose or rattle about, but it should be a real nice free-flowing little thing. It's an adjuster and it must be free to move. So once you know it is, obviously if it's not, you can grease it up and move it in and out and get it freed off. A little bit of WD-40, but not too much, again, because you've got clutch plates in there. Just a little bit. Once that's all moving nice and freely, pop your lock nut back on. And now for this operation, to set this, we're going to use a standard traditional L-shaped Allen key, the best you can use for the job. Now, let's set that about there. Now, that's the action you need. Nice and free, swinging around like that, nothing holding it whatsoever. Then, from that free point, we turn the Allen key in until it lightly seats. There, that's it. Now obviously if you're coming up this side and you're finding a resistance there, take that out, move it to 3 o'clock and then use the weight of the Allen key, and that's what we're trying to do here. So obviously the book says turn inwards clockwise until lightly seated, and that's where we get a few questions coming through the comments. What does lightly seated mean? How much do I go in? I seem to be turning and it keeps going, and I'll show you what they mean by that. It can be confusing because from there, which is the correct point, with one finger alone, I can keep turning that all the way around. Because now being a spring-loaded mechanism, I'm just opening it up, and that's no good. I need to have it completely set, all the clutch plates fully engaged and the free play taken out of the system. Because now I'm going to set the free play with 1/2 to 1 turn. So there we are, that's lightly seated. Use the weight of the Allen key, nothing more. Don't pull on it with your fingers, that's it. Now from that point, turn outwards, counterclockwise, half to 1 full turn. Let's do that again. From lightly seated, turn outwards, half to 1 full turn. Now why so vague? Obviously that's a little bit confusing again. Where is it exactly supposed to be? Well, you're looking for heat expansion space. How hot is the environment you live in? How hot are you going to get your bike? Half a turn out will give you the normal amount of expansion space that you need for normal use in an ambient climate. If you live in Arizona or Western Australia, or you're going to be a little bit of a stunt rider and get your bike super hot and do lots of stunts on it, rolling burnouts and so on, and that's pretty common, then an extra half turn will give you an extra little bit of expansion space so you won't get clutch slip. If you are experiencing clutch slip, then you might have too much expansion in your clutch adjustment. So again, clutch adjustment is a great way of diagnosing all sorts of things. So let's set this one more time. Lightly seated, weight of the Allen key. I'm going to go half a turn because we live in England and it ain't hot here. And then screw the lock nut in. Now once the lock nut is all the way in, nip it up with your fingers as tight as you can while holding it with the Allen key. Now we've got to torque it up. Now the first thing that comes to mind is, if you're going to put a socket on that and you're going to torque it up, is it going to turn the actual grub screw and upset the amount of free play that you set in it? Well, it doesn't. I'll show you. I'm going to show you with a Sharpie. I'm going to mark the top there of the screw, as you can see, and I'm going to mark the plate above so you can see those two dots align, and now I'm going to torque it up. The torque setting for this on a little Weehar torque wrench is from 8 to 14 Newton meters. So I'm going to pop that on there, give that a turn. That's tight enough. And as we can still see, the adjuster there and the dot on the plate are exactly the same. So that adjuster has not moved. There are fancy tools that when you need to torque up a lock nut, you've got a special torque head, or on your torque wrench head, you can put the Allen key through. But on this clutch adjustment, you don't need to. As I've shown you just now, hold it with your fingers, do it up as tight as you can, finger tight, while holding the set. Once that's there, torque it up between 8 and 14 Newton meters. Now that clutch adjustment is set, final job we've got to do for the clutch adjustment is to put the cable back to its proper setting. Now we turn the adjuster screw back out to its original position and set the cable free play. Okay, to set your cable free play on the lever, it's between the lever here and its bracket. You're looking for 3 millimeters in that gap. That's the setting. So hold it out and then screw the cable outwards till that lifts that in to approximately 3 mil. And I'm going to go with that there. Perfect. And finish by bringing the lock nut down so it doesn't move. Just nip that up and then protect the boot down over the top. Keep the weather off it. There we go. Derby cover back on. Right. Now the triangular hole grips the thread as you screw it in, as I said in the last video, so it doesn't come off, and it makes sure that all the others line up when you come to put them in place. There's no need to grease that goes in bone dry. That's it. Now that's one clutch adjustment. If you're going to do this yourself, investing in a torque wrench at the lower end of the range is really important. It's the right thing to do. It's not about getting them tight enough, it's making sure that they're uniform, you're not warping the case in any way, and then you'll be doing good quality work from the start onwards. And any tools you haven't got, if you wonder, check out the Spanner Monkey website. I'll put a link at the end. You can treat yourself if you want to, or put it on your birthday list, whatever. Anyway, that's a clutch adjustment done end to end. Now let's do the primary chain adjustment, which is the last job on your service. Right, primary chain inspection hole. Now this isn't really the inspection hole because you can't see the bit that you're inspecting. You're looking at the free play on the chain. The chain itself is passing along up inside here. It's about that level, so you can't actually see it through the inspection cover, but you can see the adjuster. So if you have to adjust it, that's really an access hole for the adjuster. Now, put your hand inside and you'll see at the top, you're lifting the top row of the chain the top strand of the chain, you're pushing it up to its highest amount from its lowest, and it's that amount of slack that you're looking to check, and if it's outside of its correct range, you have to adjust it by putting a bit more tension on the adjuster here. Now, to just give you a little bit of a look in there so you can see what you're actually looking at, I'm going to stick a light in there, I'll shove the camera in there, and you can see exactly what is in there, what the anatomy of it is, and why you have to adjust it. Now you can see the bottom row of the chain there, and that rolls along a little shoe, that white plastic thing at the bottom. That's like a little shoe that it runs over, and that mechanism there with a nut in the middle and a bolt, that lifts up. If we can look in the back there, get a proper look, get a light in there. There we are, you see the big crosshead screw in the rear? I'll get a light on it. Hang on. Okay, there it is, right. Now the crosshead screw at the back, you see it's screwed into a plate that have got what looks like serrated teeth on it. And the plate that's mating to that face to face also has serrated teeth. And when this nut in the center of the screen right now is done up tight, it holds those teeth together and it holds that adjuster at the height that you want it. So to adjust that, to make it a little bit higher, to take more slack out of the chain, we take off the nut that's in the center of the screen and you push that whole mechanism there upwards, and it judders or it clicks up those teeth there, those ones you see, and sits in a higher row of teeth, and then you do up the nut to the relevant torque and it holds it at higher position. It's as simple as that. That's how we adjust it. If you take a look in the top there, there's the top row of the chain, and that's sagging just a little bit, but I need to push that upwards, and it needs to go upwards no more than 5 to 7/8 of an inch. Okay, to check the adjustment, hand in through the inspection hole and you lift upwards, feel the chain inside. This is the top row of the chain. That will sag down as it comes forward, and just lift it up. You can feel in there, there's about, well, there should be no more than between 5/8 and 7/8 of an inch of movement. So just under an inch of movement in there. Feels about right, but that's not accurate, is it? How do we make it accurate? Well, I always use a little bit of wire. Take a bit of coat hanger wire, and you want to go bend about a 90-degree inch bend in it, like that. That's going to press up inside there. We want to be able to get up in there, but come down and out. So another bend, about 1.5 inches down, like that. Another 90-degree bend, like that. And then finally a 90-degree bend equal to the first one. There we are. So little piece of coat hanger wire bent like that. Tape measure, lock it off, stand it there, put it up against the chain, and I can see accurately from this piece of wire that sticks out, as I lift that up, how much I'm getting. 7/8 of an inch. Absolutely bang on. Boom. There you go. Simple. Little piece of wire allows me to lift it and have this sticking outside, which indicates how far it's going up. Now, that's correct, but it's on the outer edge. It's 7/8 of an inch. It should be between 5/8 and 7/8. So that, although it's okay for now, it's got to have 5,000 miles before I probably come near it again. So I'm going to just pop it down to 5/8, so it's on the inner end of its adjustment, and it's got some slackening space between now and the next service, so I know it's not going to end up too slack in a few months' time. So I'll just check it once again, up against the ruler, and there it is, exactly 7/8. Right, let's tighten up a little bit, show you how it's done. Back off the lock nut. It, but don't remove it. Don't take the nut off completely. Now I've just got to lift that up, one click on its back plate. Okay. Now you can see by looking at the point where the bracket crosses the screw at the back that you've come up one tooth. That's all I want from it. Just nip it for now. Check it again. Inside there. There it is. 5/8. Awesome. Got it. There we are. Okay. Now that has taken the chain just one click up the adjuster and given it its minimum adjustment slack rather than its maximum, so it now lasts me all the way to the next service in 5,000 miles time. That just leaves to torque up that adjuster nut to its correct factory torque, put a new gasket on, put the cover on, and I think we're done. The torque range on this is 29 to 39 Newton meters. There it is. Right, there we are, that's it, the end of 3 videos, a very simple, straightforward engine servicing series. 3 videos, engine oil change, gearbox and primary oil change, and then clutch adjustment and primary chain adjustment. That basically works out to be the fundamental engine service you're going to do. Yeah, there's other little bits and pieces like spark plug gap and so on, but you can do all that, I'm quite sure, not difficult at all. Now obviously the full service on your Harley Davidson's a far greater thing, that's why they cost a lot of money to have done. But once you've got into the bulk of it, once you've done the spine, the backbone of it, the engine service in itself, all those 5 little jobs, you've knocked off the lion's share of it. The only other thing that's extremely important is your critical fasteners check. Now one of those is where you go over the whole bike with a prescribed series of fasteners that you check for correct torque. You also, some of them have to back them off and re-torque them up, and that's just as important, and all the reason to buy one of these genuine service manuals. Whatever is the right one for your bike, they are a seriously worthy investment, and they will talk you through everything you have to do on your engine service and the wider servicing on your bike. Simple as that. So there we are. I hope you've enjoyed this little series of 3. It had to be done. The Dyna was a long project. I didn't want to lose these last 3 videos in the project itself. Hopefully now you can save these in your save box. You can use them when you need to do the servicing on your Dyna as well. Now join me in the next one. We're back on the booster build. I've got all the parts now, a colossal big box of parts and materials. I'm going to get stuck into that build with a vengeance. I can get out and ride this in the sunshine now. It's all ready to go. So there we are. Hope you enjoyed that, and I hope it helps you. Thank you for watching and all your amazing support. Take it easy, ride safe, and I'll see you next time.
Unusual, the context unique, buried in the depths of metaphorical speech, a hidden message. Pull the infinite strings, reconnect the ends and pretend